All right, you guys probably have realized that human beings are a pretty resilient group of creatures. I mean, we can survive on just about anything for long periods of time. You know, it may not kill us. I mean, look, there's vegans that survive oftentimes for long periods of time. But, you know, we have the capacity to, live on junk food, live on vegan food, live on many different types of diets and still persist. I mean, I'm always surprised by, right? So anyway, let's talk about a interesting phenomenon that occurred a while back. So back in the 1960s, there was an epidemic of blindness back in Cuba. It affected about 50,000 people. And what caused it? Well, this might surprise many of you. People were developing something called optic neuritis, an inflammation of the nerve that connects your eye to your brain, and this resulted in the loss of vision, even blindness for a lot of people. Now, Fidel Castro suspected some type of biological or chemical attack was to blame. But that was not the case. Teams of doctors actually tried to determine out what happened, and they found a pattern. Most were smokers. That was significant because they weren't smoking the good Cuban cigars or the tobacco, but the very cheap, high-tar tobacco that the government had supplied. The Cubans were forbidden to use Cuban tobacco as it was exported like their best foods were. Now, the tobacco they got from the government contained very high tar, some of the highest levels available. Now, most appeared malnourished. One of the Dr. Rosalaris Santiesteban found similarity in 1947 with reports from POW camps. She also found records from Jamaican slaves at work on sugar plantations. The common thread was diet, specifically a root tuber known as cassava and also beans. As it turns out, the Cuban people were not permitted to eat the food that they grew. They had to obtain their food from the government, who decided what they were allowed to eat. Kind of sounds a little dramatic foreshadowing, if you know what I mean, or what we're maybe being told what's going on. But anyway, this is why food sovereignty is so important. Do we trust Bill Gates to make wise food choices for us? I mean, this guy's a big fat slop. He's one of the richest guys in the world. He can't even figure out how to lose his own belly, right? And he's going to be making decisions for you because he is buying up farm and ranch land while pushing a vegan fake meat agenda, while invested in companies that make it. Okay, back to Cuba. Researchers determined that many of the people with optic neuritis had gotten very thin and they were deficient in several B vitamins. They also noted that there was a lower risk of neuropathy in people who had eaten more meat or more B vitamin-rich foods. Often the same food was meat. The researchers also noted that people who ate more cassava were 3 times more likely to be affected by the particular type of blindness. Those who raised chickens had a lower risk, which was thought because they ate eggs, even though that was also forbidden, believe it or not, by the government to eat your own chicken eggs. In the end, the biggest risk factors were smoking and eating lots of cassava. These types of problems have been seen in other parts of the world. In Nigeria, a similar problem was also documented. This has happened more in students. They tended to improve during vacation, but got worse when they were back at school. Now, what is it that I remember about New York City wanting all school lunches to be basically meat-free? As it turns out, cassava is a staple for over 600 million people in the poor, remote parts of the world, and it is basically poisonous. Cassava contains cyanogenic glycosides, which form hydrogen cyanide when released. So apparently the combination of really cheap cigarettes and too much poisonous vegetables and basically malnutrition from not getting enough meat is what resulted in this epidemic of blindness in Cuba. If you'd like to also see how meat can help you have healthier skin, take a second to check the video linked right up here. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget, don't eat poisonous vegetables, smoke cheap cigars, and forget to eat your meat. We'll see you next time.